What's up guys, welcome back to my channel Anime Fiction. I'm back with a new episode of Further Naruto was reborn as Saitama in My Hero Academia Part 6. And if you did enjoy this video, consider a like and if you're new to my channel and like my content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more constructive fictions. Now let's begin this new video.
Chapter 33. The following day was likewise unremarkable. After waking up and eating breakfast, the two proceeded on an early patrol, which didn't produce much save that people began to recognize Naruto more. Naruto and Rumi were sitting on a roof, staring out at people going about their business early in the morning. Naruto was holding a drink, while Rumi was drinking something with carrot flavoring. "Is there nothing else you do?" Naruto inquired after taking a taste. "I'm always bored by this part. Although others may remark things like, it's fantastic that it's dull because it indicates we're doing our jobs effectively. Still, I'd want to be able to kick someone now and then to let off some anger." Rumi swung her feet back and forth in boredom, dangling her feet over the edge. "Did the school not give you instructions on what to do for our work experience?" Naruto inquired. "They most likely did, but I never checked the email they sent me. I assumed it was spam and erased it." Rumi responded by standing up and extended her arms in a circle. "Okay, enough relaxing. I heard some commotion over there. Would you like to handle it this time?" Rumi inquired, her rabbit ears twitching slightly as she pointed to the two's left past the shopping district. "You can handle them, I already took care of the ones before this," Naruto replied as he stood up and brushing his jeans. Rumi only shrugged and grinned before leaping off to the opposite roof, towards the shopping zone, as police cars began to appear one after the other. Naruto lingered on the rooftop for a minute, his gaze wandering over the people photographing the racing police cars. Naruto shook his head and murmured, "I should buy a game console tonight." As he turned towards the place Rumi jumped off to. The remainder of the day went on as usual. Rumi quickly arrested a thief who was robbing a jewelry store after their little break on a rooftop. After that, they went to Tron in the forest just outside of town before returning to town for another round of patrolling. Back at Rumi's place, Naruto was little depressed since he discovered he didn't have enough money to buy a game console, but he consoled himself by knowing that after some more saving, he should be able to. The two sat on the couch, chatting and watching the news for the day. Naruto was taken aback when his name appeared alongside an image of Rumi standing amid a car wreckage among three crooks captured the day before. As you can see from this brief crime spree, Rabbit Hero Mirko is standing alongside Naruto Uzumaki, first place winner of this year's UA Freshman Sports Festival. According to our sources, he is currently acquiring further experience in the position of a hero within our society as part of the UA High School's program. Not only that, but this young man has revealed his hero name, One Punch Man. Many people laughed at his name at first, but in recent days, his moniker has remained true, with individuals merely seeing him resulting in one move to subdue his opponents. We look forward to seeing this young man's future performance and ultimate ascension to the rank of pro hero. "Well, look at you, Mr. One Punch Man," Rumi said, poking him with her foot. "You're getting famous. Don't let it get to your head." This was bound to happen at some point. Naruto batted her foot away. "I didn't expect it to happen so quickly, though." That's when his phone began to buzz uncontrollably as hundreds of messages from various people began to flood his inbox, as they began to spam him. "Better not keep your fans waiting." Rumi smiled as she went to the kitchen to get a carrot. Naruto rolled his eyes and reached for his phone. After scanning his fingerprint, the screen unlocked, and he noticed that his inbox had already reached 99+. Naruto sighed and pressed the small mail icon. He then noticed that all of his classmates' names had appeared in his contacts list since they had all written him messages at the same time following the news broadcast about him. He also received texts from his parents complimenting him on how handsome and cool he appeared on TV. Naruto frowned at Mina's for a moment after reading what she had to say after responding to certain texts. "Mina, did you notice? Someone has already created a fansite for you. It's dubbed the One Punch Fans page." Naruto. She also provided him a link, which he followed. The link directed him to a website with a banner at the top with Naruto's face splashed throughout it. There were also a slew of videos and images of him from the sports festival, as well as his recent public appearances while on patrol. Rumi, leaning over the crouch behind him, remarked over his shoulder, "Ah, you have your own fansite now? Just make certain they don't establish a cult or something." "A cult?" Naruto inquired. "Hey, You never know with these people, Rumi replied, plopping down on the couch and crunching on her carrot, her legs carelessly stretched across Naruto's LP. Whatever you say, Naruto shook his head. When he scrolled down, he grimaced even more when he saw someone draw his face on an egg. Not only that, but it was set atop a table surrounded by candles in a dimly lighted room. The post's title was, "Pray to the Great One Punch Man for his blessing." Click. Naruto turned to Rumi, switched off his phone, and remarked, "Maybe you're right this time." Rumi's ears twitched as her head tilted in perplexity. She just shrugged and returned her attention to the TV till Naruto spoke out. "By the way, for the next few days, do you mind if we patrol somewhere else?" Naruto inquired. "Huh?" Rumi inquired. "Why? Do you find this city too boring?" "There's nothing like that. Just call it a gut instinct." Naruto responded to her question. "Do this for me, and I'll let you test out your new moves on me all you want." Deal. Naruto and Rumi continued their daily patrol and training the next day until nightfall. On this particular day, they had just arrived at Hosu City at Naruto's request. He turned to him and replied, "I have a friend here who said that she'll lend us her place to crash for the next few days while she's out of town." Naruto nodded, and the two immediately began their patrol of the city in their hero costumes. "Just don't forget your promise now," Rumi urged as they began hopping from one roof to the other. "I won't. Besides, I'm confident you'll be grateful to me after this," Naruto stated, leading her to twist her head in uncertainty, but she decided to merely focus on her surroundings thanks to her great hearing abilities. "You still won't tell me why you wanted to come to Hosu City?" Rumi inquired. "I told you it was a gut feeling. Consider it a freshly discovered quirk," Naruto responded. "Huh? Since when did you become such a smartass?" Rumi chuckled. Just as Naruto was about to speak, Rumi abruptly frowned and came to a standstill, directing her head in a certain direction as her bunny ears began to twitch furiously. "What's wrong?" Naruto inquired. Rumi was silent for a time before turning to Naruto and stating, "Well, looks like I'll have to thank your gut feelings since it looks like I'll get my fill of fighting people." Naruto squinted his eyes slightly and turned to face Rumi. "Well, I assumed it was going to happen tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, but I guess it happened today." He crossed his arms. "In any case, I don't recall which day the attack occurred. I won't have to deal with, oh, what was his name again? Shitstain. Whatever, I'll just go deal with the Nomus. Besides, Rumi can stand in for me if the cops come after me." Rumi then turned to Naruto and asked, "Well, what are you waiting for? It appears that we have some persons in serious need of a beating. Just make sure you leave some for me." Naruto replied with a smile, "We'll see." On a rooftop, three persons stood side by side, with Stain at the front wearing his dark battlesuit coated with metal armor across his body that holstered his weapons, a slew of sharp knives and a sword on his back. There are far too many of them. False heroes, who adore the strong banknote. I'll keep appearing until society recognizes it's a mistake on its own. Stain yelled as he sprang from the rooftop, pulling his sword in the same action. Shigaraki stood behind Kurogiri as they watched him leave. Shigaraki scratched his neck and said, "If it hadn't been for him, I would have started this in a different damn city." "You wanted to go to Saitama Prefecture," Kurogiri stated with a shake of his head. "Is it due of him?" "What the hell do you think?" Shigaraki yelled, turning to face him. "How perfect would it have been to unleash the Nomus where that brat is and crush him in one go?" "There's no point dwelling on it because we have other things to deal with," Kurogiri added calmly. Shigaraki crossed his arms and clicked his tongue, muttering, "Whatever. Besides, I just couldn't get along with Stain. He irritates me. If he goes on a rampage with his little blade, I'll just have to outdo him. Release the Nomus, Kurogiri." Kurogiri's black misted head began to swirl without a word, expanding several times in size behind him. Through the black mist, a head appeared, but 80% of it was missing because just its brain was visible. As they stepped out, more that looked like it arrived through the mist, one with wings on its back and another with eyes on its brain. "I can't wait to see those heroes' expressions when they discover Hosu City in ruins and dozens of heroes crushed beneath the Nomu's foot. Just wait. Uzumaki, Naruto. I'll find you one day and wipe you off the face of the earth." Shigaraki whispered something to himself. As the three Nomus emerged from behind, four more arrived from behind, increasing the total. "Let's see you lot live up to your purpose," Shigaraki remarked. directing the Nomus to spread out and go on the rampage. The group of Nomus rushed off the roof, one flying away, and charged into the streets of Hosu City without saying anything. Back at Naruto's, the two were making their way over to where Rumi heard big stomps but then abruptly stopped to scowl. "What's wrong?" Naruto asked her as he came to a halt next to her. Rumi's bunny ears twitched again as she continued, "This might possibly be troublesome. There appear to be at least 7 of them, but there could be more, and they have all separated from one another." "That is indeed troublesome," Naruto observed, frowning slightly. "Naruto, I trust you to make the right decisions," Rumi stated to him. "We'll have to split apart as well, but with your strength, I'm confident I won't have to worry about anything. If anything too bothersome arises, simply punch it away." She then laughed and clapped Naruto on the back before sprinting away from their original path. Naruto glanced away from her retreating form with a faint but obvious smirk. Well, might as well put in some nighttime exercise. Naruto bent his legs and focused his vision in a certain direction before leaping far into the sky above the city. "Should I have some sort of glider on my back?" Naruto thought to himself as he was in the air and descending towards his destination. A large one would be ridiculous, but perhaps they could design an expanding one. I could then easily jump high up and glide to my destination. While Naruto was buried in thinking, a giant crimson Nomu with spikes on its back was clutching onto a car with a man inside. The man was yelling at the top of his lungs, tears flowing down his cheeks. "Help! Please assist me!" the man yelled to anyone who would listen. A policeman was under the Nomu's foot, his head where the Nomu's foot was currently planted, blood streaming from it. A bakery nearby had a massive glass wall that had been shattered into pieces. Inside the beginning was a bloodied figure dressed in his hero costume, his limbs quivering as he fought to maintain himself. "Wait. What do you want? If you leave me alone, I'll give you whatever you desire." As the Nomus dragged the automobile closer to its body, the man yelled, leaping from the driver's seat to the back seat. As the sound of metal cracking echoed, the Nomu plunged its palm into the roof of the car. The Nomu broke the roof of the automobile open with a tear, exposing the man to it. "Help! Heroes! Anyone! I don't want to die, please!" the man yelled out, his voice cracking, as he attempted to crawl beneath the car seats but became stuck. The Nomu then swung its fist downwards at the man as he closed his eyes and bit his lips, but he didn't feel the expected pain. When he opened his eyes, he saw someone in a yellow jumpsuit with a red cape standing in front of him, blocking the Nomu's fist. "I heard your cries, so you can rest assured now," Naruto murmured to the man underneath him. "The heroes have arrived." The man's lips quivered as he tried to utter words of thanks, but he was cut off when the Nomu used its free hand to dig a spike out of its back before bringing it down to impale Naruto. "Watch out!" the man yelled out, but the Nomu's upper body vanished as he blinked, and a loud booming crunch reached his ear. Naruto turned to face the man, lowering his smoking fist and saying, "Huh? Did you just say something?" "And nevermind," the man murmured, slumped back down to the bottom of the automobile, sweat dripping down his brow. Naruto nodded and exited the automobile, pulling the bottom of the Nomu's corpse with him as it tried to regenerate slowly. "Hey, that's cheating," Naruto replied, frowning. "In my game, you don't receive extra lives." Naruto stomped down on the steadily regenerating Nomu, crushing it beneath him as a mist of blood erupted outwards beneath him. Except for the ground, the car, and the surrounding buildings, only he was not coated in blood. "Time to head to the next one," Naruto stated as he turned and rushed down the streets as he rounded the corner. The man from the automobile wanted to say something, but Naruto had already vanished. He trembled as he saw the Nomu's remnants, well, the blood of it, and thanked his savior internally. As Naruto was sprinting to another place, he thought to himself, although my memory is crap, at least I still remembered that there weren't supposed to be this many Nomus during this attack. Did I have any say in this? Whatever, I'll make up for it by getting rid of them. The interaction between Stain and Midoriya was currently taking place as he traveled to his next destination, precisely as it had in the canon plot. Of course, Naruto was uninterested in this because being near them would entail too much monologue. A little old man was currently confronting a highly agile variety of Nomu in another part of the city. The Nomu charged at the man, but he jumped over it, so the Nomu shifted his focus and went at civilians nearby instead. "Stop, you Gran Torino," the little old man yelled at Nomu. However, just as the Nomu was about to reach it, he was interrupted by a voice. Now you seem stronger than the types I've faced before. Rumi's words boomed out as she swooped upon the Nomu, launching a high kick down towards its exposed brain, severing it. However, just as the Nomu was starting to recover, it was consumed in flames as Endeavor arrived and sneered, "Mirko, what exactly are you doing in Hosu? This wasn't your patrol area, as far as I recall." "Ha. What's it to you?" Rumi remarked, crossing her arms and staring at him. "I'm here at his request with my partner. Besides, it appeared to be a wise decision on his part." "Your partner?" Endeavor frowned as he linked what he had seen on TV the night before. "You don't mean?" "You understand exactly what I mean. I don't have time to stay, and there are more of these things in the region. So, if you want to sit down and have a friendly discussion over some tea, you're welcome, since I'll be doing my actual job." Rumi turned to Gran Torino and nodded before dashing away into the next largest disturbance. Gran Torino and Endeavor exchanged looks before deciding to trail behind her. Naruto had just left Hosu City after dealing with the first Nomu and was on the lookout for the next one. A large number of people screamed and ran away from what he assumed was a Nomu from the corner of a street. Naruto dashed past the frightened crowd and came to what he perceived as the remnants of a mall entrance. Glass littered the ground. As more screams were heard from within, large holes were adorned all over the entrance and adjoining walls. A figure slammed through a nearby wall and onto the hard concrete, sending up big plumes of dust in the process, just as he was ready to move in. "Cough, damn it, damn it. What on earth are those things?" A man with brown hair R&D as he held the side of his HST as blood was streaming through the tattered fabric of his now shabby hero outfit. When the man saw Naruto and his costume, he was about to cry out for help, but then he noticed how young Naruto was. "You need to leave this place," he murmured to Naruto, shaking his head. "Those things within aren't your normal street thugs you can deal with." Naruto gave the man with excellent intentions a brief glance before responding, "Well, only one way to find out." Naruto's body shot forward as he entered the hole that the man had been blown through, while the man behind him was still trying to warn him, but to no avail. Inside, Naruto discovered the ruins of what appeared to be a clothes store, with numerous things thrown around the floor as well as broken furniture and walls. Bang! A large crashing sound came from outside the rec store, and Naruto moved towards the source, exiting the store. Coming out, he was in a bigger area where many had already fled or were in the midst of fleeing. A giant haunched creature with a green body entered his vision as it rounded the corner, eyeing Naruto as its next target while puffing out a small cloud of green air from its large gas mask on its face. In its grasp was a man dressed in a security uniform, his body withered and green, and dark blood flowed from his eyes, nose, and mouth. Naruto grimaced at the sight and turned to face his new opponent. The Nomu knocked its head to the side, as if applauding Naruto, then tossed the guy in its arm to the side, as if tossing rubbish. The hero who had been thrown through the store was slumped against a damaged wall, holding his side and screaming, "Get back, damn it. Now is not the time to be playing hero." When another Nomu appeared, the green Nomu reeled its head back and let out a loud screeching sound before sprinting forward. Naruto was going to run forward when he noticed this, but the wall next to him was blasted open in the next second as another Nomu appeared, throwing broken debris across the ground. The new Nomu was on all fours, with a gag on its mouth that prevented it from properly opening its own mouth. Drool was falling from its mouth and onto the floor as it looked at Naruto with a ravenous and furious glare. Shit. That's the crazy fucker that blew me up." The hero behind him grumbled, preparing to fight, assuming Naruto was now a lost cause. With a muffled cry, the enraged Nomu hurried over the ground on its hands and feet in an unusual running pattern. As it approached Naruto, the Nomu swung its hands towards his throat, its nails becoming razor sharp at the same time. Naruto moved his head backward to avoid the claws as they passed into his throat. Following that, he kicked Nomu in the head, causing it to burst and spatter across the ceiling above them. Thatsa. At the sight of Naruto beheading the Nomu, the man behind him faltered as the quirk that was currently engulfing his fists with a yellow light began to fade. Instead of stopping, the Nomu continued fighting instinctively, swinging its arms and legs towards Naruto. The green Nomu on the side moved as well, ripping the gas mask off its face, revealing a wound through which its lower jaw is gone, letting its tongue hang casually, and green gas flowing out of its ruptured throat. With a roar, the Nomu emitted a pungent green fog towards Naruto, sweeping across the ground and past the mall's many decorative plants, causing them to wither and disintegrate into bits. Naruto squinted and grumbled, "Well, I wouldn't want to go near that or I'll stink." Naruto stepped onto the headless Nomu's back and, with a casual flick of his wrist, broke the Nomu's arms before proceeding onto its legs, immobilizing it. Naruto hopped off the now crippled Nomu that was trashing its body around wildly, then booted it forward, deforming its torso as he sent it barreling into the rushing green Nomu. The Nomu had hardly any time to duck as it crashed with its brethren, sending the two flying back and slamming through a store with glass displays, seeing the body with its flailing crippled limbs hurtling towards it. Naruto seized the frenzied Nomu's torso and smashed it downwards into the green Nomu's head, covering its mouth, now that they were distant from where the green fog was. "Man, even if you're villains, you should at least brush your teeth," Naruto grumbled as he raised his right knee and held his nose with one palm. He stomped downwards onto the piled Nomus, shattering both of them in a single motion. Afar, the previous man remained in his combat stance, unsure how to react to the sudden change in circumstances. He sagged onto the ground, groaning as he held his side, letting out a gasp of air. He then turned to face Naruto and shook his head, saying, "Well, it appears that the next generation is at least quite promising. Huh." Back to where Naruto was. Naruto was currently inspecting the remains of the two Nomus beneath him, which were not regenerating as the others had. Did those League of Virgins get a budget cut or something? Naruto something, utterly mispronouncing their name. He shrugged and decided it wasn't something he needed to worry about just now. Turning back, he noticed a man laying on the ground with his hands on his sides and approached him, saying, "Hey, I know you're hurt, but do you mind taking care of things here? Those two should be unconscious by now, so I should move on to the next ones. Okay, bye." Naruto went through the roof of the mall and landed on its roof, setting off to his next destination as the stunned man was lost in his thoughts. "Damn, I should have gotten an autograph. It would have sold for millions of dollars in the future." The man muttered something. "Ask for whose autograph?" A deep and scowling voice sounded from behind him, forcing the man to jump, only to groan in pain and grasp his side once more. "Endeavor," murmured the man as he turned around. Endeavor was staring over the man on the ground below him, and Gran Torino stood close to him. With his arms crossed, he noticed the two Nomu bodies at the end of the hall, inside a wrecked store. "Did you do that?" With a suspicious tone, Endeavor inquired. "You wouldn't believe who I saw," the man said with a short smile and a shake of his head. "I think we would." As the three looked up, they noticed Rumi looking down at them through the hole Naruto had leapt through. "Let me guess. You saw someone wearing a yellow jumpsuit, white cape, red gloves, and a bald, yet handsome head," Rumi said, smirking. Yes," the man said, blinking fast. "How did you find out?" "Tisk." Endeavor clicked his tongue in irritation and moved up to where the two Nomus lied, while Gran Torino looked on with awe. Rumi simply smirked and replied, "I guess you don't watch much TV. Simply check up One Punch Man to get all the answers you need." Rumi hopped out of sight as Gran Torino followed her through the hole in the roof. She had a huge grin on her face as she remembered the state of the Nomus she had seen, courtesy of Naruto. Naruto pondered his next move while standing on a rooftop after dealing with the two Nomu threats within a mall complex. If Rumi dealt with the other Nomu, there should only be two left by now. Isn't Endeavor dealing with the Nomus as well? Maybe I should switch things up and give Rumi the focus this time. Naruto mused to himself, nodding his head up and down as he devised his strategy. Naruto's ears perked as he heard a pair of light footsteps fall behind him, followed by a familiar voice. "Kept you waiting, huh?" Rumi joked as she approached next to him, placing her arm on his shoulder to lean on. "You already took down 3 of those oversized penguins, only letting me deal with one. You're going to have to pay up for all the fun I'm missing out on." "Well, you should do better then if you don't want to miss out on OU, Naruto simply shrugged. Before he could finish his sentence, Rumi had already swung her body around and threw a backward roundhouse to Naruto's head, which he simply avoided by leaning to the side. "Don't be a smartass, Tisk," Rumi grumbled, crossing her arms and looking over to where Naruto was staring before she came. "What do your overpowering senses say? Have you found the masterminds behind this shambles yet?" Naruto hummed for a bit before raising his hands, making a circle and raising them to his eyes like binoculars. Although he didn't really need to do this, he thought it would be a good idea to spice up his life. Squinting his eyes, he could see two persons in a discussion on top of a structure with a water tank halfway across town, observing the location of the next Nomu attack. Those are the same guys who attacked the school. I believe their name was the League of Krillin guys, Naruto said as he lowered his hands. It's definitely not their name, but whatever. Rumi reflected to herself. How about this, you deal with the Nomu on the way, and I'll lead Hothead and Gramps to the other Nomu. We may then meet up in the location where those two are. Naruto turned around to see Endeavor ascending a ladder to the roof of the building the two were in, accompanied by a little old guy he suspected of being. Was it Grand Tour? When Naruto saw them, he agreed to Rumi's idea and hopped away, but not before adding a little more strength than usual in his legs, causing the building to tremble and Endeavor to lose his grip and tumble off the side of the building. Rumi smirked, muttering, "Sly bastard. Damn, I should have recorded that. Imagine how many hits I'd get on Hero Book." Naruto was far up in the air as he began to approach the arc of his jump, his cape flying frantically behind him as he left the regrouping of the three pro heroes. Meanwhile, in the center of the street, close to a destroyed bank, stood a giant black Nomu missing the entire bottom jaw up, with only a large brain in its place. Several pro heroes surrounded the Nomu, attempting to tame it only to be beaten and tossed away. Damn it. Where did he run off to at this time? Manuel, the pro hero, growled out, gripping his bleeding left arm and donning a helmet with a fish-like fin and a blue visor. Keep your focus on that thing. A man wearing a purple helmet yelled as he stabbed the Nomu's arm with the spikes sprouting from his forearms, only to have them split in half. Get away from it. A woman yelled, but before the man could respond, Nomu seized his shoulder and threw him barreling straight into the side of an overturned police car, denting the metal exterior, while the man remained motionless. A man then raced forward and wrapped his tentacle-like arms around Nomu's arm in an attempt to restrain it. The Nomu completely ignored him, raising both of its arms and slamming down on a man with tentacles for arms. Before being crushed, the man was dragged away by a red fabric hung around his waist by the woman who had shouted the warning before. Before he could thank him, the Nomu seized the side of a signpost and tossed it forward like a javelin, striking into the man's stomach and dragging him into a cafe's window, crashing into it. What the hell is this thing made of? Manuel yelled as he and the remaining 5 heroes prepared to assault the Nomu once more. The Nomu then switched its focus to the woman with the ribbon powers, but before he could, an extremely rapid item collided with the back of the Nomu, sending it face first into the asphalt road and kicking up dust and shattered road pieces in its wake. That was a human. The woman yelled within. Although she couldn't see what had come crashing down, she was certain it was a person. Why was she so certain? Well, I swear I saw a bald head. When the dust settled, everyone's mouths dropped open. There was a massive crater about 5 meters deep in the earth where the Nomu stood, and Naruto was standing on the back of the crushed Nomu's skull, dusting his clothes. Damn, I tried to do a superhero landing, but who would have thought that the Nomu got in the way of me? Naruto mumbled in a low voice, but not low enough because almost everyone heard him. However, the Nomu beneath Naruto twitched and moved, swinging its arm behind its back and grabbing onto Naruto's right leg. Watch out. The heroes yelled and dashed down to assist the recently arrived Naruto. Oi! Mind your personal space, Naruto yelled angrily, kicking his feet up and pulling the Nomu's arm off. The heroes who were about to leap down slipped and nearly fell face first into the crater. Naruto was ready to lift his leg to finish off the Nomu when he had a better idea. Naruto spun around and smashed both legs of the Nomu, immobilizing it before the other heroes could say anything. Watch him for a second, Naruto murmured to Manuel, before his figure faded away as if he were a mirage. Where did he go? Manuel stated that his brain was barely keeping up with the happenings. A harsh cracking sound passed through his ears, followed by a large bang, leading him to look towards the Nomu in the crater. A metal sign went deep past the Nomu's torso and dug into the ground, impaling its back. Then there was another cracking bang as the second, third, and fourth signs impaled the Nomu into the ground, holding it down. The fluttering of a cape drew Manuel's attention once more, as Naruto reappeared in the crater and bent all of the signs at an angle, preventing the Nomu from escaping. Well, that's done with, Naruto replied, dusting his red gloves. It's time to move on. Wait. Before Naruto could hop away, Manuel yelled after him. Naruto asked the man a questioning look. How are you? I'm a little rushed. Are you going to fight another one of these things? Manuel inquired. I can see that you're really strong, stronger than what you showed during the sports festival, but you should at least be with the other pro heroes. Yeah. Thanks for the worry, but I'll be fine, Naruto answered, waving his hand. Just don't get too near to it since it could still hit you. Naruto vanished from his position, kicking up a cloud of dust where he stood, before Manuel could say anything else. Manuel could only sigh and thank the youngster once again in his heart. When he turned back, he was astounded to see one of his partners hurling a rock at the Nomu's head, as if to vent his frustration. Naruto left that group and resumed his position on another roof, staring down into an alleyway where his classmates were currently fighting the weeaboo samurai hero killer. He could see that their conflict was coming to a conclusion, therefore there was no need for him to intervene. Naruto squinted and retrieved a rock from his pocket as he turned around to face the two masterminds. Tossing it up once, he squeezed it between his thumb and index finger, flicking it towards them at breakneck speed, causing his cape to flutter faintly. There was an autocorrect error yesterday with the word manual, which was converted to Manuel for some reason. Oh well, no one saw the Spanish Inquisition coming. Naruto returned his gaze to the action below them after seeing those two vanish away. Todoroki appeared to be able to put up more of a fight than in the past, based on what he witnessed. He began to utilize his ice to fashion weapons for close-quarters combat in this narrow passageway. However, his weapon handling skills are lacking, since Afro Samurai was able to sneak past his guard and nearly kill him, leaving Izuku to save him in the nick of time. That plot armor is awesome. Naruto was getting tired of watching them and waiting for Rumi when he heard something that made his eye twitch. Todoroki was the one who yelled at Izuku, declaring that he was nothing compared to Naruto, which resulted in their earning a power-up. Shortly later, Iida joined the fight with Todoroki's assistance, and they eventually overpowered the man. The three were on their last legs, virtually collapsing from exhaustion and pain after the struggle. Naruto therefore decided to participate in the performance in order to finally perform a superhero landing. He rose from the edge of the roof and stepped down, his cape flowing behind him. Who would have guessed that Afro Samurai would still be able to rise up and try to stealthily attack the three kids? Finally, just as he was going to slash at them, Naruto landed on top of him, knocking him out instantaneously. The three kids were astonished, but when they spotted Naruto, they smiled and praised him, with Todoroki mumbling, "He still managed to take him out in one hit, even though it took all three of us combined." When Naruto heard that, he coughed, thinking to himself, that was a total accident. Who knew the guy would be in his way when he landed? Shaking his head, he went to the three and asked, "You guys all right? You look a little battered up there." Naruto gestured to Izuku, who was struggling at the stand without Iida's assistance. "We're all right, it was a tough fight, but we managed to take him down in the end." Izuku clenched his fist, pleased with himself. Todoroki just avoided the subject, asking Naruto, "What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be with the rabbit hero Mirko?" Naruto shrugged and stepped off the man beneath him, adding, "Sightseeing." "In your hero costume?" Todoroki inquired, suspicious. "So what if I'm cosplaying? Sue me." Naruto turned back and dragged the man out of the alleyway by his foot. The three exchanged glances before shaking their heads and following Naruto out. They took the man out onto the street, with Iida tying him up with some rope he had on him. He stated that if one desired to be a pro hero, one should be prepared. There they are. The sounds of several individuals sounded from the side as the familiar group of pro heroes that Naruto had just encountered appeared. They hesitated for a second when they spotted Naruto, then shifted their attention to the man bound behind them. They recognized him and said, "The hero killer? We got a backup request from Endeavor, but we didn't expect any of this." Manuel stated. "Someone call an ambulance, they're in pain." The others then began to move, checking to see if the youngsters were okay and how the hero killer was doing. They would periodically cast looks toward Naruto, unsure what to say in such a setting. Seeing this, Naruto simply ignored them and moved to the side with his phone. He dialed Rumi, and after a few seconds, a ragged breathing voice reached his ears, immediately saying, "Yeah? What's going on? It's a little crowded here." Hearing this, Naruto devised a cunning idea and exclaimed, "Oh, are you still working on it? I figured you'd be finished by now." "Shut up. It's not easy to combat someone who can fly. This jerk keeps flying away as soon as I get close enough. Oh shit, it's flying away again. I'll talk to you later. Beep beep. Rumi ended the phone as swiftly as she had answered it. He was looking at his phone. Naruto didn't pay much attention to her statements. When I turned to face the rest of the group, it appeared that they were still debating the specifics of defeating the hero killer, as well as reprimanding them because they were still children. When the gang was waiting for more backup and a change in the situation, a loud screech from the sky caught their attention right away. Looking above, they noticed another Nomu flying directly towards them, missing its right arm and bloodied all over its body. Another one of those things. Standing in front of the kids, one of the pro-heroes called out. Get to the alleyway. Manuel yelled to the kids, but they didn't have time to react because Nomu folded its wings and flew down at them like a bullet, intent on doing destruction. Oh no, you don't. Rumi's voice entered everyone's ears, and then her form flashed before their eyes as she delivered a backheel kick aimed at its neck, shattering it in the process. The Nomu was then thrown into the middle of the road, skidding around the tarmac until coming to a rest, struggling to get up. Aye Mirko, it's the rabbit hero. Even in this situation, Izuku exclaimed, fanboying. Rumi moved away from the group and turned to Naruto, saying, don't you interfere, this one's mine. Sure. Break a leg, Naruto remarked casually, stepping onto a side railing to perch on as he checked his phone. Oh, I will, Rumi grinned, bending her leg and charging straight at the Nomu, focused on subduing it. However, just as she was ready to break its legs, a streak of fire cut her off and scorched the Nomu, shoving her back as she glared at its source. Endeavor stood there with a scowl on his face, saying, you were taking too long. What do you mean, I was taking too long? Look at you, saunter in here after running behind us halfway across town, barely getting any hits in. Rumi refuted him. Endeavor chose to ignore her and checked on the Nomu on the ground, finding it motionless and unresponsive. He then glanced towards the crowd and scowled at Todoroki for a minute before returning his gaze to Naruto. Sorry, I don't swing that man, Naruto remarked, his gaze fixed on his phone. As he tried to stop himself from pounding Naruto to a pulp, a vein in his brain threatened to explode. The hero killer then twitched, pulling a knife from his sleeve and cutting his bindings while everyone's attention was still on the unmoving Nomu and Endeavor. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the hero killer rapidly leapt out with his knife and charged towards Endeavor, who was caught off surprise, yelling, you fake. A boulder smacked into the back of his head, knocking him out and sending him face first into the road before he could continue his sentence. Everyone except Rumi slowly turned towards Naruto, seeing him still on his phone, oblivious to the scene surrounding him. Naruto hopped down the railing and approached Rumi, saying, this was all fun and games, but we need to get going now, you guys can deal with the aftermath. Stay right there. You're not going anywhere after the mess you've made. Endeavor yelled as he walked towards Naruto, the flames on his body blazing up. Gran Torino had already appeared and implored Endeavor to cool down before acting, but he had been completely ignored. Nope. See you guys at school. Naruto waved to his friends before nodding to Rumi, who tilted her head inquisitively before grasping his arm. Naruto had already vanished from their sight before Endeavor could approach close, leaving a furious Endeavor and a perplexed group of heroes staring at an empty area on the road. When the cops arrived, they each stared at one another, unsure how they would record any of this in their reports and make it credible, for fear of being chastised. To conclude the night, all Nomus who were still alive were taken into police custody, while those who died were also taken into custody in case they decided to reanimate and cause havoc again. The following day, the news outlets went berserk, reporting on the devastation wrought by the Nomus as well as the hero killer's murdering rampage with his radical philosophy. There was one matter, however, that was more focused than the Nomus or the hero killer. Returning to the previous night, Shigaraki and Kurogiri were unaware that a helicopter belonging to a news station had filmed them on the roof with the water tank. Shigaraki was hit by a rock and collapsed in anguish, screaming numerous profanities before being taken away by Kugoriri, leaving the news team astonished. Well, it would seem that those two managed to steal the spotlight, although I'm not sure if it was for the right reasons though. Iida stated within Hosu General Hospital after seeing what a news station mentioned on TV. Knocking on the door, yo, Naruto's voice said as the door opened to reveal him in his orange hoodie and blue trousers. Rumi stood next to him, wearing a yellow shirt and pants and appearing disinterested and musing about something else. Naruto. Todoroki nodded as Izuku and Iida greeted each other. Naruto then gave each of the three of them a single banana, adding, "Here you go, get well soon." "You guys catch up," Rumi said, tapping Naruto on the shoulder. "I'm going to see what the others are talking about." She then exited the room, leaving the four alone. Naruto sat in the midst of their beds, dragging a stool with wheels on the bottom, as they began to narrate the events of the previous night. "You two don't even look like a pair of mentor and student," he said. "We have more of a casual relationship, no need for all that serious mentorship stuff," Naruto stated as he peeled and ate his banana. Izuku's cheeks flushed as he stuttered, "Why you two are in an RR relationship? What are you talking about? We're close." Ignoring Izuku's fury, Naruto said, "Anyway, tell me what happened last night before I came." Rumi stood for a moment outside the room, her long ears twitching after hearing fragments of the conversation. She then strolled away, smiling. The three then proceeded to recount the events preceding Naruto's arrival, beginning with Iida going off on his own to chase the hero killer, followed by Izuku coming upon him before sending out a distress signal to his peers, to which Todoroki answered and came shortly after. "Didn't you get the message?" Izuku inquired. "Probably went to spam," Naruto answered, lying because he deleted his mail the moment it arrived by accident. "You should have seen it, he was able to use our blood to enhance his own abilities," Izuku went on to say. Naruto simply answered, "That's a strange fetish. At least it's not as horrible as that one insane girl, he thinks." "Saya, it's a miracle we're still alive after that fight," Izuku stated as he examined his bandaged arms and leg. "There were moments when he could have killed us in an instant, but he definitely let us live for some reason," Todoroki said, looking over his bandaged left arm. Naruto sat on his stool and rolled across the room, picking up a newspaper placed on a side table and glossing over the title. "Hosu City Rampage, Villain Mastermind Injures Himself?" Underneath the title was an enlarged portrait of Shigaraki hanging onto his twisted left leg, with Kurogiri supporting him. A headline appeared beneath it that read, "A hero killer has been arrested." It went into who and what happened, but it mostly skipped over his arrest as if it wasn't as essential as Shigaraki's performance. Underneath was an image of Rumi grinning broadly after kicking a Nomu away, with Endeavor in the background. Todoroki went to Naruto, who was reading the newspaper, and stated, "There was no mention of us anywhere. It's either they want to bury our contributions away or they did it to keep our identities secret." "You're half right about that, woof." As the door slid open to show Gran Torino, Manuel, Rumi, and a man with the head of a beagle entered the room, a voice heard from outside. Naruto turned to face the four people who had entered the room, staring at Rumi, who simply shrugged and strolled next to him. Gran Torino, Manuel, and the stranger looked at Naruto for a minute more, their eyes wide with wonder and speculation. Kenji Suragame, Hosu's chief of police, introduced himself as the man with the beagle head. Rumi approached Naruto and whispered into his ear while they were chatting amongst themselves. "Nothing to worry about, just typical hero politics." Naruto nodded and listened in on the chat, which was mostly about dull police stuff and how, as students, they shouldn't have been involved in the events of the night before. With that final sentence, he turned to face Naruto, preparing to say something but stopping himself after catching a gaze from Rumi next to him, whirling Naruto around on his stool. "So what you're saying is that officially we never participated in the fight and were only wounded as side collateral," Naruto replied, closing his eyes and crossing his arm. For a brief while, the room was silent, with Rumi reaching over to Naruto and saying, "You're facing the wrong direction." Rumi's stomach was visible when he opened his eyes. He then carefully turned himself around, asking, "So what you're saying is that officially we never." "You don't have to repeat yourself." "Oh, and you're correct. It is illegal for kids like you to participate in acts of heroism without a hero license, even if you were in training, woof. However, I must appreciate you all for your efforts in saving people and decreasing the amount of casualties that could have arisen from the events of last night, woof." Suragame, the chief of police, stated as he bowed to the four kids. He then turned to Naruto and added, "I also have to thank you for your actions last night, woof. I can't even begin to conceive how many fatalities we would have had if you hadn't stopped those Nomu yourselves, woof. The big issue is how to handle this in public, woof." Naruto stood up and waved his hand, saying, "Just say that it was Rumi, Gran Turismo, and Endy's actions." Rumi followed him to the exit, saying goodbye to the group and departing. Izuku's eyes widened as he leaned in close to Todoroki and Iida and whispered. He called her by her first name. Todoroki narrowed his eyes and placed a palm on his chin as he went deep into meditation, while Iida nodded thoughtfully. Author's note. It's not BL, so you Fujoshis may go. Rumi turned to Naruto as they walked side by side and stated, you don't mind having your achievements buried away? Do you really believe they'll be able to completely suppress last night's events? I was almost jumping around town all night, and I'm sure people were recording videos of me on their phones and posting them to Hero Book right now. Naruto swiftly pulled out his phone and looked for something before handing it over to Rumi. There was a video on it of Naruto fighting the two Nomus inside the shopping center. The quality was poor and shaky, most likely because to the panic of the person holding the phone, but no one could mistake Naruto's appearance or him beating up the two Nomus. You're going to start rising in popularity soon, and more people will recognize you even more, Rumi remarked as he returned his phone. Wear glasses, a mask, and a wig if you don't want to be harassed outside. I don't need a damn wig, just glasses should be enough, he said, twitching the corner of his mouth. Rumi didn't say anything, but her gaze gradually moved to his head. What are you looking at? Naruto's voice pierced her ears, forcing her to turn aside. Nothing. Enough of that, come here and pose for a photo with me, Rumi replied, placing her arm around Naruto's shoulder and bringing him close as she took out her phone and snapped a photo of the two, Rumi with a huge grin and Naruto with a puzzled look. I'll post this later on my page. You should probably make an account for your hero stuff, separate from your private life, Rumi added, storing the photo on her phone and setting it as her wallpaper without Naruto's knowledge. I'll see. Naruto casually addressed. The two proceeded to discuss about random topics, such as last night's events and when they should return to the city. Naruto had no idea that his phone, which he had placed on quiet, had been flooded with alerts and messages from his classmates, parents, instructors, and friends. He was in for a long day if he had to calm everyone down, especially two specific people. Author's note. The lengthy discussion about becoming a hero and its politics, blah blah, was chopped short. I'm assuming you already know about Heroes politics because you're listening to My Hero Academia fanfic. To be continued.
That's it for this part, guys. Time for listening to this video. I hope it did enjoy the story, and if it did, like, share, and subscribe for more. And thank you all for helping support, and have a great day.